Our Daily Bread Bible study continues here for day 183. This is Wednesday, July 1st, 2020, Proverbs 8 through 11. We have made it halfway through the year, and this Daily Bread Bible study keeps on going here. We have in Proverbs chapter 8, verses 10 through 11 for you today. It says, "Take my instruction instead of silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than jewels, and all that you may desire cannot compare with her." It uses imagery in verse 19 as well, talking about my fruit is better than gold. So this, images of wisdom, instruction, education being better than gold and more rewarding for a good life. I can't overstate how important it is to have education. That we are given here in some sense in the United States the opportunity to have education for our children. And that's very important, as my grandma reminds me that she was the only one of her family who finished continued all the way through school. Her siblings were asked to help work on the farm, and her education she feels has been very valuable to her, and in fact led her to be a teacher in order to educate and teach other individuals. So this is I love you, Granny Weiss. I'm glad that you have taught and instructed me and given my family the opportunity to pursue more education. In general as well too, I just want to say thank you, especially to all the school teachers out there. It's a hard time to be a school teacher. There are a lot of demands on you, a lot of demands both from the systems that you participate in and also from the students, right, who are still learning and growing themselves as well too. And you're caught in the middle of trying to teach and inform in systems that can be kind of hostile towards education and listening and learning and discipline. So I hope you don't lose heart. I hope you know that what you're doing is valuable and important, and it will change lives for the better. So all you school teachers out there, thank you again. Moving on to Proverbs chapter 9, verses 8 through 10. It says, "A scoffer who is rebuked will only hate you. The wise, when rebuked, will love you. Give instruction to the wise, and they will become wiser still. Teach the righteous, and they will gain in learning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight." So the famous line here, from Proverbs, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. It's, combined with just a lot of insight, and continues in that theme and that appreciation of, when you're able to be receptive to learning and to knowledge and to information, you grow wiser, you grow yourself, and you are able to flourish. It provides you a mark upon your spirit and your mentality that will serve you the rest of your life. It's very important to be able to learn and to listen. And I think our society can do well to listen to one another, to not to seek to hold everybody else's opinions and to say that everybody else's opinions are the way that we should believe, but that there is wisdom from other individuals. Like when we look at one another as saying insight and saying that other individuals, their knowledge, their wisdom that they have to offer and to value is just as important as our own, then we take a posture in which we're willing to listen and to grow. And it builds relationships, it builds trust, it also builds community, and it also grows you as an individual to consider something you may have not thought of before. Now, I will say this, not all wisdom is equal, not all facts are necessarily helpful. It's about figuring out the intersection of all of this knowledge so that way we can attain wisdom through that. So moving on with more wisdom literature, Proverbs chapter 10, verse 12. It says, hatred stirs up strife, but love covers all offenses. Now, chapter 10 has a lot of random wisdom. It's strung out. It's good wisdom. It's good thoughts. They're kind of disconnected. But yeah, I focused on one which is a little bit easier to apply. Hatred stirs up strife, but love covers offenses. So when you have love in your heart, other people recognize it. They will see it. Those who are humble, those who are considerate will see that. They'll recognize it, and they'll treat you well because of it. They'll take care of you and bless you in your life because they're God-fearing and they care about justice and righteousness and loving others. And the imagery I like to talk about in our world is that we have the opportunity to make an impact on others around us. When we have hatred, it's like we take a rock and throw it into a pond, and the rock creates ripples, and especially if it's a smaller pond, it just ripples and ripples out throughout the whole pond, and the whole area is kind of influenced and impacted. We have the idea that the things closest to it get hit the hardest and have to experience the ripples deepest, which is often our family members and our own dysfunction when that happens. But love is the harder thing, right? Love is the one that calms the ripples of the waters. Love itself is not, it's just more like time and not throwing rocks into the pond. It's going to take time for things to calm down, but when you have love and things are at peace and calm, beautiful things can happen. Also in chapter 10, verse 15, speaks and says that the wealth of the rich is their fortress, the poverty of the poor is their ruin, which, going back to our day and time, it feels like the opposite is kind of true, or at least perspective is meant to be held with Proverbs 10:15. Wealth can make you immune to momentary emergencies. That's why we plan for a rainy day, is the expression here in the United States. We plan for emergencies and to have a little bit, so that way when an emergency comes up, that you're not totally swept off your feet, and that you fall onto hard times and just are unable to get out of that cycle of debt, or that cycle of always finding the next emergency catching you off guard. At the same time, having too much wealth can lead you to be very inwardly focused and close ourselves off to the needs of others. That's the danger of wealth that's stated throughout the whole Bible. It was very important in Deuteronomy chapter 10, consequently, verses 17 through 19. And it's just Deuteronomy, I bring it up as a reminder that these people had nothing when they were wandering in the wilderness, and yet God took care of them. And it's an important remembrance, for Solomon, who at the height of the kingdom of Israel, that community, that he is harking back and keeping the wisdom of the exiles out of Egypt. So in Deuteronomy 10:17 through 19, it says, "For the Lord your God is God of gods and Lord of lords, the great God, the mighty and awesome, who is not partial and takes no bribes, who executes justice for the orphan and the widow, who loves the strangers, providing them food and clothing. You shall also love the stranger, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt." Once we gain wealth, we can be tempted to hoard it for ourselves, to just focus on our own needs, but it's more rewarding when we're able to share it and provide for those around us, because it makes an impact, and we all need each other to be able to share what we have in order to live together. So may you be generous. Closing it in Proverbs chapter 11, I selected verses 23 through 25. 23 says, "The desire of the righteous ends only in good, the expectation of the wicked in wrath. Some give freely, yet grow all their riches. Yet grow all the richer. Others withhold what is due and only suffer want. A generous person will be enriched, and one who gives water will get water. So using another famous Bible verse, saying that we have, Galatians 6:7 says, you reap what you sow. When we reap generosity, when we sow peace around us, we create a trustworthy world, a world worth living in, a world where we can be resilient, we can love one another, love the stranger, take care of the interest of the orphaned and the widows, be people who have wealth but do not use that wealth for selfish gain, nor do we try and seek to gain wealth or create justice just for ourselves, right? We seek to love the world and to take care of those neighbors around us, especially those who feel oppressed and orphaned. So thank you for everyone who contributes to that. Again, school teachers, thank you for all that you do and the ways that you sow love and joy. And even when it's hard and difficult, that you do bring peace to our society through wisdom and education. So may you be encouraged and nurtured in your vocation as well. May God bless you until the next time we meet.